Something is happening at dollar stores right now that most people are walking right past. And I don't mean the prices edging up a few cents. I don't mean a couple of empty pegs on a Tuesday morning. I mean something structural. Something that's been building quietly for over a year and is about to become very visible very fast by the time summer arrives. Dollar Tree, the largest dollar store chain in the country, closed more than 600 locations in the last fiscal year. Not because dollar stores are going away, but because the economics of running them have changed. The stores that survived are the highest volume locations. The ones that didn't make the cut are gone. And the stores still standing are operating under more pressure than they have in a decade. But here's the question I want you to sit with for the next few minutes. What happens to the items that are still on those shelves? Because here's what I found when I spent the last few weeks doing what I always do, walking the aisles, checking unit prices, reading the industry reports most shoppers never see, and talking to people who work in distribution, commodity brokering, and retail pharmacy. There are 15 specific items sitting in dollar stores right now. Things you probably pick up every week without thinking. And every single one of them is facing serious pressure, price pressure, supply pressure, or reformulation pressure, or not be there at all. I'm going to walk you through all 15 today. I'll tell you what I bought, what I spent, how to store it, and how much you can realistically save by moving now instead of waiting. I want you to walk away from this video feeling prepared, not panicked. Prepared. There is a real difference. Quick heads up before we start. Item 13 on this list is the one I almost left off entirely. It sounds too small to matter. Then I ran the numbers. You'll want to hear it. And if you are new here, this channel is where we watch the shelves, track the supply chain data, and give you the information before it becomes obvious to everyone else. Hit subscribe right now. The people who subscribed after our last video on this topic have already moved on 3 of these items. Let's go. Item 1. Canned beans. The protein floor is cracking. Let me start with something that might not sound alarming, but will once you hear the full picture. Canned beans, black beans, pinto beans, kidney beans, chickpeas have been one of the most reliable values in any dollar store for years. You walk in, you spend $1, you leave with a complete protein source that can sit in your pantry for years. That deal is changing. Bean prices at the wholesale level have been climbing steadily since mid-2024, driven by a combination of drought conditions in key growing regions, rising transportation costs, and a surge in consumer demand for affordable plant-based protein. And now, layered on top of that, tariffs on the steel used to manufacture the cans themselves are adding a cost that has nothing to do with the beans and everything to do with the container they ship in. Here's what most people don't realize about how dollar store supply actually works. When a supplier has to prioritize which retailers get restocked first, big box chains and major grocery stores have more leverage, more volume, longer contracts, better terms. Dollar stores wait. And the small format cans, the ones sized specifically for dollar store pricing, are the first configuration to get cut when a supplier needs to triage their production line. I went to my local Dollar Tree and Dollar General in the same week. I bought 14 cans of black beans and 12 cans of chickpeas. Total spend was around $32. Those same cans at a regular grocery store are running anywhere from $1.49 to $1.79 each. I already saved close to $12 compared to waiting. Label your cans with the purchase date and rotate front to back. Commercially canned beans keep for 2 to 5 years in a cool, dry space. This is not complicated. This is just being the kind of shopper who uses information before it becomes obvious. Item 2. Dish soap. About 3 weeks ago, I was standing in the cleaning aisle and a woman next to me picked up a bottle of dish soap, looked at it, and said, "Dish soap is a textbook shrinkflation product. The bottle looks the same. The price looks the same. What you're not seeing is that the fluid ounces have been quietly dropping for 2 years. What was a 20-ounce bottle became 18, then 16. Some brands are now at 14 ounces for the same shelf price. You're getting fewer washes per bottle, and the bottle is designed so you won't notice. That's not an accident. Here's where it gets serious. Dish soap is built around surfactants, the chemical compounds that actually cut grease. A significant portion of those surfactants are derived from petrochemicals that move through global supply chains currently under tariff pressure. Manufacturers facing higher input costs have three options: raise prices, reduce sizes, or reformulate. All three options cost you. I bought 8 bottles. Spent about $10. Comparable bottles at the grocery store, already in their reduced sizes, are running $1.79 to $2.29 each. I saved between $4 and $8 on a product I'm going to use regardless. Here's something I want you to remember for later in this list. Dish soap, cleaning spray, laundry pods, and hand soap all depend on the same category of chemical inputs. I'm going to flag it when we get there. 3 items from now, watch for it. Because what's happening to one of those supply chains is happening to all of them. Dish soap stores indefinitely at room temperature. Stack it under the sink, in a closet, anywhere dry. You do not want to be the person paying $2.50 for this when you could have it for $1.25 today. Item 3. Canned tuna. The quota squeeze. Canned tuna is one of those items that families have relied on for generations. Quick protein, cheap lunch, always on the shelf. That reliability is being tested right now, and the reason is actually a story about conservation. Tuna fisheries around the world are under increasing strain. Catch quotas are tightening as conservation bodies like the International Seafood Sustainability Foundation. That's good news for the oceans and real pressure on the supply chain. At the same time, the aluminum used in tuna cans, like the steel in bean cans, has seen price volatility that processors are beginning to pass through to retail pricing. When you add those pressures together, tighter quotas, higher can costs, rising shipping expenses, and just like with beans, the suppliers prioritize their biggest customers first. Warehouse clubs and major grocery chains get restocked. Dollar stores wait. I loaded up 20 cans of chunk light tuna across 2 trips. The per can cost at the dollar store was about $1.25. At the grocery store right now, the comparable can is sitting at $1.60 to $1.90 depending on the brand. One note on variety: chunk light tuna is the better dollar store buy. It has a longer practical shelf life, a higher yield per can, and it's the variety most likely to stay in dollar store distribution longest because the volume is higher. Keep it in a cool, dry pantry, away from heat sources or temperature swings that can compromise the can seal. 3 to 5 years, unopened. If tuna is a regular part of how you feed your household, now is the window. Item 4. Multi-purpose cleaning spray. The $3 bottle you're still getting for $1.25. This is the item with the single biggest price gap on this entire list. A multi-purpose spray that cleans your counters, your stovetop, your bathroom sink, your doorknobs, $1.25 at the dollar store. $3 to $5 for the exact same function at the grocery store. That gap is closing. And fast. The reason is twofold. First, these sprays depend heavily on the same surfactant and fragrance chemical supply chains that are under tariff pressure, the same story I flagged when we talked about dish soap. Second, the plastic bottles themselves and the trigger mechanisms and spray nozzles are made from resin components. You're getting squeezed on the chemistry and the packaging at the same time. A logistics contact I have in the household goods space told me that several mid-size cleaning product suppliers who exclusively serve value format retailers have either paused production on certain SKUs or are moving toward reduced volume reformulations. That's not speculation. That is happening right now. I bought 12 bottles on my last 2 shopping trips. Total cost was right at... If I'd bought the same number of comparable sprays at a standard grocery store, I would have spent somewhere between $36 and $45. That's a $30 savings on a product that stores without any degradation for 2 to 3 years in a cabinet. Keep them away from direct sunlight and any heat source. The formulas are stable, the bottles are durable, and there is genuinely no downside to having a supply on hand. Don't reach under the sink this summer and find nothing there. Item 5. Laundry detergent pods. The most chemically vulnerable item on this list. I want to be honest with you about this one up front. Laundry pods are not disappearing from stores entirely. But what's available at the dollar store, the small count packs, the budget brands that make pods accessible to households? Here's why. Detergent pods are among the most chemically complex consumer products on any retail shelf. The dissolvable film that holds each pod together is a synthetic polymer material. The concentrated detergent inside contains multiple surfactants, enzymes, optical brighteners. Many of those ingredients move through global supply chains that have been disrupted or are now subject to import tariffs that did not exist 2 years ago. The math of making a 10-count pod pack for $1.25 barely worked before. It does not work now. What's happening is this. Suppliers are either raising minimum order quantities, which dollar stores cannot meet, or they are pulling the small format SKUs entirely in favor of the larger count packs that go to standard retailers. I've watched the pod section at $3 stores in my area over the past 6 weeks. 2 of them have already cut their pod selection in half. One is down to a single brand in a single count. I picked up 10 packs across several stores while I still could. Total spend was about $13. A comparable wash count at a major grocery chain runs $8 to $12 per pack. Store your pods in their original packaging, inside a sealed bin, away from humidity, at all costs. That dissolvable film begins to degrade if moisture gets to it. Shelf life is about 15 months from the production date printed on the package. The small format dollar store laundry pod pack is one of the most endangered items on this entire list. Do not let this one slip by. Before we get to item 6, I want to step back for 30 seconds. Because I think you deserve to understand why all of this is happening at the same time. Dollar stores operate on gross margins somewhere between 25 and 35%. A standard grocery store runs 40 to 50%. That margin difference sounds abstract until you realize what it means in practice. When a raw material cost goes up, steel, aluminum, surfactants, resins, a grocery store has cushion to absorb some of that before it hits the shelf price. A dollar store does not. The economics were already thin. Every cost increase hits dollar store margins twice as hard. And here's the other piece. Dollar Tree's 600-plus store closures weren't random. The stores that closed were the lower traffic, lower volume locations. The ones still open are running higher volume, which sounds like a good thing, until you realize they're trying to serve more customers with supplier relationships that haven't gotten stronger. The squeeze is real. And it shows up first as missing SKUs, then as reformulated products, and finally as price increases. We are in the middle of that sequence right now. Item 6 is where the numbers genuinely stop me. Let's go. Item 6. Cooking oil. The commodity that stopped making sense. I want to tell you exactly what happened when I looked into the cooking oil situation at dollar stores. Because when I dug into the numbers, really dug in, I had to sit with it for a minute. Cooking oil. Vegetable oil, canola oil, the kind in that small bottle, for $1 or $1.25. This item is facing a convergence of pressures, unlike almost anything else in the store, and it's a confluence that has pushed the unit economics past a breaking point. Here's the full picture. Soybean and canola crops have faced back-to-back difficult growing seasons in major producing regions, particularly in Canada. Global vegetable oil supplies have been running tight as a result. At the same time, palm oil, which is used as a substitute ingredient in many blended cooking oil formulations, has seen significant price spikes tied to weather disruptions and export restrictions from producing countries in Southeast Asia. Layer on top of that the tariff situation affecting commodity imports, and you have a product that reprices very quickly when trade conditions shift. But here's the part that genuinely got my attention. I spoke with someone who works in food commodity brokering. They told me point blank that the unit economics of a small cooking oil bottle, the 12 to 16 ounce sizes priced for dollar store margins, that means suppliers are either going to stop selling to dollar store channels, or they're going to reduce the bottle size to the point where the product barely functions as a practical kitchen staple. I went back to the store twice. I bought 14 small bottles of vegetable oil total. Spent about $17.50. At a grocery store, comparable cooking oil in its current sizes is running $2.50 to $3.50 per bottle, depending on brand. Cooking oil has a shelf life of 1 to 2 years when stored unopened at room temperature, away from heat and light. Once opened, use it within 6 months. Do not refrigerate, it causes the oil to cloud or partially solidify, which is harmless but inconvenient. Sealed, in a cool pantry, it holds perfectly. If you cook anything at home, and I mean anything, Cooking oil is not optional. What's sitting on those shelves right now may be some of the last affordable small format bottles available for a while. Item 7. Aluminum foil and plastic wrap. The metal tax on your kitchen drawer. Aluminum is everywhere. It's in your phone, your car, your soda can, your laptop. And every pricing pressure moving through that commodity chain eventually lands somewhere in your kitchen drawer. Dollar store aluminum foil and plastic wrap have been a budget shopper's secret weapon for years. A roll of foil for $1.25 that lasts you weeks. A box of plastic wrap that covers the whole month. These are the invisible workhorses of a kitchen. They are about to become a lot more expensive. Here's the shrinkflation pattern you need to know. A standard dollar store foil roll that used to advertise 25 square feet is now running 18 to 20 square feet in many cases. Same box dimensions. Slightly smaller print on the square footage measurement. That is not an accident, and it is not a coincidence. Aluminum prices on the London Metal Exchange have been climbing under pressure from tariff action on imports and global demand increases. The tariff cascade affects every step of the supply chain, from raw aluminum. And here's the second squeeze that most people miss. Plastic wrap uses PVDC or polyethylene film, a petroleum-derived packaging material facing its own separate cost pressures from the same resin markets, squeezing the laundry pod film and the storage bag plastic. Your foil and your plastic wrap are getting hit from two different directions at once. A retail buyer who sources for discount stores told me that aluminum and film-based products, foil, plastic wrap, storage bags, are among the categories under the most internal supplier pressure right now. Expect fewer SKUs and reduced roll counts by the third quarter of this year. I bought 8 rolls of foil and 6 boxes of plastic wrap. Spent about $17 total. The same quantity at a grocery store would have run me $28 to $35 depending on the brand. That's real money on items that store indefinitely in a dry drawer. Check the square footage. Don't just grab the box, check the number. Item 8. Over-the-counter pain relief. The pharmacy inside the dollar store is closing. This one I want you to hear carefully, because the story behind this item is one of the most underreported retail pharmacy situations happening right now. Store-brand ibuprofen, acetaminophen, aspirin, small count bottles, $1.25. These have been a fixture at dollar stores for years. For a lot of households, it's the only way they can keep pain relief accessible without having to spend $8 or $10 on a bottle at the drugstore. Here's what most people don't know about that $1.25 bottle. The active ingredient inside it, the ibuprofen itself, the acetaminophen itself, was almost certainly manufactured overseas. The FDA estimates that a significant portion of active pharmaceutical ingredients used in generic medications in the United States come from facilities in China and India. For dollar store generic OTC products, that number is even more concentrated. Now here's the part that doesn't make the news. The FDA has issued import alerts on specific pharmaceutical manufacturing facilities in India and China in recent years. Facilities found to have data integrity issues, contamination problems, or GMP compliance failures. When one of those alerts goes out on a facility that's a primary API source for dollar store generic suppliers, you get a quiet gap in supply that never gets announced. The shelf just slowly empties. A pharmacist I know who has been in retail pharmacy for over 15 years told me that in her professional experience, small count dollar store OTC formats are always the first to disappear or get repriced when input costs rise. Her exact words, "The people who buy those bottles need them most and are least able to absorb a sudden price jump." I bought 10 bottles across 2 visits. Total was about $12.50. The same tablet count at a pharmacy or grocery store runs $5 per comparable bottle or more. I saved roughly $37 on a product with a real use case every single week. OTC pain relievers have expiration dates, but research, including a widely cited study by pharmacist Lee Cantrell and colleagues, has consistently shown that active ingredients remain effective for years past the printed label date when stored properly. The critical thing is storage. Keep them in a bedroom closet or dresser drawer, not a bathroom cabinet. The humidity in a bathroom degrades the tablet coating and the active compound faster than anything else. Sealed in a cool, dry place, they hold up far longer than the label suggests. Item 9. Sunscreen. The summer tax you can avoid buying right now. This one has a deadline that is more specific than anything else on this list. And that deadline is the seasonal planogram reset. Here's how dollar store inventory actually works for seasonal items. Sunscreen gets stocked on a seasonal planogram, a physical shelf layout that changes on a predetermined schedule. In late spring, once that seasonal window closes, whatever sunscreen is still on the shelf gets pulled or marked down, and the space gets repurposed for the next seasonal set. There is no restocking until next year's planogram. You either buy it during the window or you buy it at full price at a drugstore all summer. Beyond the planogram timing, sunscreen formulations at dollar stores are facing supply chain pressure on their active UV filter compounds. Both zinc oxide and chemical UV filters, the active ingredients in SPF products, are sourced heavily through Asian chemical supply chains that are currently under tariff review. That cost pressure is already beginning to show up as reduced SKU variety on the seasonal rack. Here's the thing most people don't know about SPF. An SPF 30 product blocks approximately 97% of UVB rays. An SPF 50 product blocks approximately 98%. The real-world difference is about 1 percentage point, and the American Academy of Dermatology explicitly states you do not need to pay a premium for SPF 50 when the dollar store has SPF. You're getting the same functional protection. I picked up 4 bottles of SPF 30 at my dollar store for $5 total. The same coverage at a drugstore runs $4.50 to $6 per bottle. The savings aren't enormous on this one, but the timing window is narrow and the supply chain pressure is real. Get it before the planogram resets. Item 10. First Aid Basics. Cotton balls, bandages, gauze. The most underrated category on this entire list also happens to be the most boring to talk about. And I think that's exactly why it keeps getting skipped. Cotton balls, adhesive bandages, gauze pads, medical tape. The building blocks of any practical first aid kit. These items are sitting at dollar stores right now at prices that represent one of the most dramatic value gaps in the entire store, and that gap is about to close. Cotton commodity prices have been at elevated levels, driven by climate-impacted growing seasons in major producing regions like Texas, India, and West Africa. Medical-grade gauze and non-woven wound care materials are sourced heavily from Southeast Asian manufacturing. The same supply chain concentration that's driving pressure on baby wipes and personal care items is moving through this category. Here's something that might actually surprise you. Dollar store first aid items, particularly cotton balls, cotton pads, and basic gauze, are frequently repackaged versions of the same medical-grade product you'd find at 3 times the price in a pharmacy. The raw material specifications for medical cotton purity are relatively standard. The difference between a dollar store cotton ball and a CVS cotton ball is largely the box. The cotton itself often comes from the same supply base. The entire contents of a functional basic first aid kit, cotton balls, 2 packs of bandage strips, a gauze roll, and a small roll of medical tape, assembled from dollar store items, runs approximately $8 to $10. A pre-assembled first aid kit at a pharmacy with comparable contents runs $25 to $35. Vacuum seal your cotton balls and gauze pads if you're storing them long term. It prevents moisture absorption and compression that can make them less functional over time. A small vacuum storage bag from the dollar store works perfectly. Keep this one stocked. It's not exciting until you need it. Item 11. Disposable gloves. The pandemic ghost haunting your supply chain. Most people have forgotten about the great disposable glove shortage of 2020. I haven't. And the people who work in the supply chain for these products definitely haven't. Disposable latex and nitrile gloves essentially vanished from consumer shelves during the pandemic. Prices for a box of nitrile gloves that used to cost $3 hit $30, $40, $50 at the peak. The supply chain scrambled to rebuild, adding capacity in Malaysia, Thailand, Vietnam, and Cambodia. By 2022 and 2023, supply had normalized and gloves quietly reappeared on dollar store shelves. That normalization is now being tested again. Malaysian and Thai rubber and nitrile production facilities are facing renewed cost pressures from energy prices, labor cost increases, and trade friction. Dollar store glove SKUs, which were one of the last items to recover from the post-pandemic supply normalization, are among the first being cut as margins tighten again. Here's what most people don't know. Nitrile is meaningfully better than latex for most household and first aid applications. No allergy risk, more puncture resistant, better chemical resistance for cleaning applications. If you're buying gloves for cleaning, food prep, first aid, or any task where contamination matters, nitrile is the better choice. And right now, nitrile gloves at the dollar store are available. 2 boxes of 20-count nitrile gloves at the dollar store runs about $2.50. The same at a hardware store or pharmacy runs $9 to $12. That's the kind of value gap that disappears fast when supply tightens. Stock these. They're useful for cleaning, first aid, cooking, and the next time something needs to get done that you don't want on your hands. And there are 2 more items on this list I want to get to, because one of them ties back directly to the surfactant story I flagged at item 2. Item 12. Baby and feminine hygiene basics. The care aisle is getting cut first. I want to tell you about a moment that changed how I think about this category. I was in a dollar store in my area about a month ago, and a woman with a baby carrier was standing in front of the baby wipes section. The section had maybe 30% of its normal SKUs on the shelf. She stood there for a moment, moved down the aisle, and came back. There was one brand left in one count. She took them all. That is not an isolated story. Baby and feminine hygiene products at dollar stores, wipes, baby wash, pads, liners, are being cut at a disproportionate rate in SKU reduction events because the margin on small format personal care products is among the thinnest in the entire store. Cotton and synthetic fiber inputs are under cost pressure. Fragrance-free and sensitive skin formulations, which have grown in demand, use specialized ingredients that cost more. The reformulation pressure is real. Here's the thing about dollar store baby wipes specifically that almost nobody talks about. An unscented, fragrance-free baby wipe at the dollar store is functionally identical to a premium household cleaning wipe for most surfaces, countertops, bathroom fixtures, sealed hardwood. The wipe material is the same category of non-woven fabric. The only difference is the label and the price. 3 packs of baby wipes at the dollar store runs about $3.75 to $4. The comparable count of branded household cleaning wipes at Target or a grocery store is $11 to $14. If you have an infant or young child, stock these before the selection gets cut further. If you don't, buy them as general-purpose cleaning wipes and save the premium product money for something else. Either way, move on this one now. Item 13. Ziploc-style storage bags. The inflation item hiding in your kitchen drawer. This is the one I almost left off the list. It sounds minor. A box of storage bags. Who stockpiles storage bags? Stay with me. LLDPE resin, the linear low-density polyethylene film used to manufacture zip closure storage bags, has seen meaningful price increases moving through the plastics industry over the past year. That resin cost increase is moving through to packaging products, and dollar store storage bag SKUs are already reflecting it in the form of reduced count per box. Here's the nuance on this one that I think matters more than the price story. Dollar store storage bags have always been at or near the quality floor for this product category. The film gauge, the thickness of the plastic, is already at the minimum functional level. When manufacturers reduce costs further, they reduce the gauge. At a certain point, the bag tears when you put anything with a sharp edge in it. You've used a bag like this. You know exactly what I'm talking about. The next reformulation of dollar store storage bags may push them past the practical usefulness threshold for anything beyond storing bread or loose snacks. If you use storage bags regularly for food portioning, meal prep, marinating, travel toiletries, or freezing. A word on size. Quart-size bags give you the highest utility per bag for most of those applications. You can always use a quart for sandwich portions, single-serve freezing, and travel liquids. Gallon bags are harder to substitute. 2 boxes at the dollar store runs about $2.50. Comparable count at the grocery store is $7 to $10. Stack the boxes flat in a kitchen drawer. They take up no space. This one is easy to do. Item 14. Hand soap and hand sanitizer. The surfactant triangle closes. Here's where I want to close the loop I opened back at item 2. Dish soap. Cleaning spray. Laundry pods. And now hand soap and sanitizer. I flagged early in this video that several items share a common supply chain vulnerability. This is it. All four of these product categories depend, to varying degrees, on the same family of surfactant compounds, chemical structures derived from ethylene oxide. Global production of these compounds is heavily concentrated in China. Current tariff frameworks and export friction are creating cost pressure across all four product categories simultaneously. That's the structural story behind the individual items. They're not four separate problems. They're one supply chain problem showing up in four places on the shelf. Now, hand sanitizer specifically has a storage issue most people don't know about. The active ingredient in hand sanitizer is ethanol, alcohol, at a concentration of at least 60% per CDC guidelines for effectiveness. Above 77 degrees Fahrenheit, ethanol begins to evaporate from the gel medium at a rate that can, over time, drop the active concentration below that 60% threshold. Leaving your hand sanitizer in a hot car, near a window in summer, or in a garage can render it less effective without any visible change. Store it cool, inside a cabinet, in a drawer, anywhere consistently below room temperature. 4 bottles of hand soap at the dollar store runs about $5. Comparable at the grocery store is $12 to $16. At $1.25 per bottle for a product that stores indefinitely and that your household uses daily, this is one of the highest return items on this list for the effort involved. Item 15. Batteries. The last item I almost didn't include. I almost left this off. Then I ran the numbers and changed my mind. AA and AAA batteries at the dollar store, an 8-pack for $1.20. This sounds like the most mundane item on a list that already includes canned beans and ibuprofen. But the supply chain story behind alkaline batteries right now is one that most consumers have not heard, and the savings math is frankly remarkable. Here's what's happening. The critical minerals inside alkaline batteries, manganese dioxide, zinc, and in the case of lithium batteries, lithium itself, are facing dual pressure. On one side, global demand for EV battery production has dramatically increased competition. On the other side, China announced export controls on specific critical minerals in late 2024, adding trade friction. For dollar store alkaline batteries specifically, there's a nuance that changes how you should think about this purchase. Dollar store alkaline batteries, even the brands you've never heard of, are frequently manufactured in the same Asian facilities that produce batteries. The performance difference for low-drain devices, remote controls, wall clocks, smoke detectors, save your premium Duracell or Energizer batteries for high-drain devices where discharge rate matters, flashlights, digital cameras, portable speakers. For everything else in your home that runs on AA or AAA, dollar store batteries are a legitimate substitute. An 8-pack of AA batteries at the dollar store costs $1.25. A comparable pack of Duracell or Energizer at the grocery store runs $8 to $12. I bought 6 packs. Total spend was about $7.50. The grocery store equivalent would have run $48 to $72 on batteries. The savings on this one item alone justify the trip. Let me show you what these 15 items have in common when you step back and look at all of them at once. This isn't a random list. It's not 15 separate problems. It's one story told 15 different ways. Every item on this list is a household staple: food, cleaning, medicine, hygiene, preparedness. Things you use every week without thinking. And every single one of them is being hit right now by one or more of the same 4 forces at the same time. Raw material costs are up. Import costs and tariff pressure are up. Supply chain concentration, too much production in too few places, is creating vulnerability. And dollar stores, which run on margins so thin they're almost theoretical, are the first retail format to feel every one of those pressures as an empty shelf or a missing SKU. Grocery chains have more leverage with suppliers. Warehouse clubs can absorb cost volatility because their volume is enormous. Dollar stores have neither of those advantages. When the math stops working for a supplier, dollar stores feel it first. That's not going to change. It's going to get more true. You are not being paranoid by stocking up on this list. You are being the kind of consumer who uses information before it becomes obvious to everyone else. The people who wait until summer to notice these gaps will pay more, have fewer options, and wish they'd moved sooner. Here's how to actually do this without it feeling overwhelming. Pick the 5 items from this list that your household uses most. Next time you go to the dollar store, add 2 or 3 units of those items to your cart. Do that for the next few weeks. That is the entire strategy. No storage unit required. No panic buying. Just consistent, informed purchasing on things you were already going to buy. That's the difference between prepared and panicked. Prepared is a plan. Panicked is a reaction. You're watching this video, which means you're already doing the first thing. If this video helped you today, drop a $sign in the comments. That's it. Just a $sign. It tells me this content is landing, and it helps the algorithm show this to other shoppers who need to hear it before it's too late. Hit the like button if you haven't already. It genuinely matters for how YouTube distributes this video, and there are people in your circle who would benefit from seeing this list. Subscribe if you aren't already part of this community. We track retail trends, supply chain shifts, and practical stocking advice on a regular basis. The people here think the same way you do, practical, informed, always a step ahead. And I'll tell you what's coming next. In my next video, I'm going through the $5 store items I actually stopped buying. Not because they're getting more expensive, but because the quality has already fallen past the point where they're worth buying at any price. A couple of those items are going to surprise you because they're things almost everyone assumes are still a good deal. They're not. That video is coming soon, and if you're subscribed, you'll get it the moment it goes live. Take care of your household. Stay ahead of the curve. I'll see you in the next one.